Thanks also, of course, to the inspirational leadership of Vladimir Putin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. I hope you enjoyed the clip at the beginning of the show with Boris Johnson. Finally, he speaks the truth now that he's out of power. So he says good things about Vladimir Putin, complimenting him. So it just goes to show, when you're out of power, you finally start speaking the truth. That clip, by the way, is 100% real. It's not faked in any way. Anyway, the main story of the day, I'm going to be talking about the 7 dangers of fracking. As you know, Truss has lifted the ban on fracking in UK, and I'm going to discuss all of the dangers that fracking could bring. So before I go to that topic, I'm going to talk a bit more about Truss and what she's been saying lately, and also the cost of increasing the interest rates, which has happened today as well. So before I start, I want to give a quick shout out and thank you for everyone that supported me so far. I'll still need 15 of you to join my locals, and I believe 15 of you, well actually, yeah, I believe 10 of you joined last night, which I really appreciated. So I just need 15 of you remaining to join my locals, and that will be enough for me to carry on with this channel. As you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to make videos for you guys. And as you know, I'm not a big major YouTuber. My subscriber count is still very low. And if you look on my video count, the views are still very low. And also it doesn't help that I talk the truth as well. I talk about Russia, China, Ukraine. And because of that, a lot of my videos get demonetized. YouTube still makes money out of it. It's only when it goes to Google AdSense for them to pay me, they have to review the video, and when they see anything to do with Ukraine or any subject that they don't like, they decide not to pay me. So that's happening as well. So I don't get much revenue from YouTube at all. So this is why I'm thinking of starting a second job, and to make ends meet and stuff, unless I get the required support from you guys. Like I said, I'm not asking for hundreds and thousands. There's other YouTubers out there with 800-900 supporters on Patreon and things like that. You know, some of them have got thousands. You know, these guys are loving life, it seems. But I'm only asking for 15 more supporters on my locals page. And my locals page is pte.locals.com, and I'd really appreciate the support. And like I said, the promise to you is once I get 100,000 subscribers, I'm happy for you to stop that support and go support somebody else who really needs it. There's YouTubers out there with 800-900 Patreons and stuff like that. They do not need that money. They do not need more supporters. You know, there's YouTubers out there with not many views, not many subscribers. They're the ones that need the support, you know, because it's these guys that need to come up in the ranks and spread the truth, you know. So it's really important you support the up and coming ones, not the ones already established, because you know, it's getting harder and harder for the newbies to come up in this world and spread the truth. And like I said, you know, I'm trying to spread the truth out there. In a world full of lies, it's really important, and it's going to a good cause. So anyway, back to the show. So yesterday, Truss has said that the higher energy bills is a price worth paying for UK security. And she did mention things like Russia, she did mention China as well. So apparently it's worth, the UK middle class and the people who are in poverty, is worth paying for whatever's happening in Ukraine, apparently, from her words. Well, let me tell you something. Truss is not only getting a huge salary from becoming the Prime Minister, she is also under the thumb of the WEF. She is also under the thumb of the military industrial complex. Because if you don't remember, way back in March, April, when she was clamoring for the top job, she was saying the right things at the right time. And the neocons, the military-industrial complex, the WF guys, they took notice. They thought, oh, this woman, she seems to be saying the right stuff. Let's contact her. And I bet you any money that some of them contacted her behind the scenes and said, look, we will make you the next prime minister, but you have to promise you will focus on these issues and do this and do that. You got to make sure, get rid of the bankers' bonus things. You got to make sure these oil companies get as much profit as possible. So all of these things, they promised her she would get the job, but she had to do stuff in return. And this is why she's doing all of this stuff in return. She's going after China. She's going after Russia. She's giving these bankers loads of bonuses. She's making sure these gas companies and oil companies are making as much profit as possible. She's definitely under these top companies' thumbs. She's definitely being paid. So not only is she being paid, she's also given a lot of money as well. So if you think about it, Tony Blair, who's absolute war criminal, this guy is a billionaire. His family is absolutely rich beyond their wildest dreams. So how did he become a billionaire with prime minister wages? Absolutely not just with wages. You know, he basically followed Bush all the way to Iraq, Afghanistan. Everything that Bush wanted, Blair did. So Blair was definitely under the thumb of the military-industrial complex at the time, and he got rewarded handsomely. And this is why Tony Blair now is an absolute billionaire. Boris Johnson saw that, so he was trying to do exactly the same thing. And this is why Boris Johnson's unwavering support for Ukraine. So these politicians, they're all dirty. You know, I mean, you can tell by looking at her face, she's not genuine. She's not thinking about the middle class. She's not thinking about the ordinary person in UK. She's all in it for herself. So for her to say higher energy bills is a price worth paying, it's not going to affect her, because she's probably making millions. It's not going to affect her at all. This is only going to affect ordinary people who can't feed their kids, who can't keep their kids warm during winter. And let me tell you something, winter is starting, because it's starting to get very cold in UK now. So in the next few months, you will see how people really, really struggle. So another thing has happened today. The Bank of England has raised interest rates. And it's raised the interest rates from 1.75 to 2.25%, the highest level in 14 years. So what does that mean? Well, let me show you what it means. So an average price of a house in London is 500,000. Obviously, the more expensive areas is millions, but so let's say an average, even like a poor area in London. One of the poorest areas in London is East London. Even prices there are like 500,000, even the poorest areas. So if they've increased their average interest to 2.25%, however, the banks are not going to give you 2.25%. They'll probably put it to 2.5% or even 3%. So let's put it as 2.5%, and you can see the average per month is 2,243. Last year, the interest rate was 0.5%. So let's see how it was from last year. And you can see last year's 1,773. So give and take, it's between 400 to 500 pounds monthly increase for an average citizen. You know, that is a huge number. If you count the huge electricity bills as well, huge gas bills as well, you know, people are going to start losing their homes left, right and centre. And I know what you might say. You might say, oh, this is only affecting people who are on variable rates. It's not going to affect the fixed rate people. Well, let me tell you something. This fixed rate stuff, you know, only lasts for 2 years, 3 years maybe. Yeah, you can maybe buy a fixed rate for 5 years, but that's it. And during the pandemic, you know, people were buying fixed rates for maybe 2 years, 3 years, and what you'll find is a lot of these fixed rates mortgages end maybe this year or maybe next year. So this year or next year, there's going to be a huge explosion of serious hardship. So suddenly, when you have a fixed rate mortgage you've been paying, suddenly your fixed rate has run out. You'll find that you have a mortgage rate that you have to pay extra 500 or 600, and you can't get that fixed rate anymore. You're basically screwed. You're absolutely screwed, because that mortgage was how much you could afford. And now you have to cough up an extra £500 plus cough up extra £500 a month for bills. That's £1,000. I mean, nobody's got £1,000 lying around. This is an absolute disaster waiting to happen in monumental terms. Absolute disaster. And now she's borrowing like £200 billion for the cost of living crisis. And this is just kicking the can further along the road. I mean, eventually that money will have to be paid back. And the only people that are happy with this decision are the big oil and gas companies, because this safeguards their profits. This safeguards that they don't have to pay any windfall taxes or anything like that. So they will carry on paying their profits for their shareholders and their board members, while everyone else basically has to borrow money to make ends meet. And don't forget, this 200 billion is only estimated as of now. So imagine the next few months when gas prices start shooting up and oil prices start shooting up, and they will. 100% sure they will, because it's winter, and guess what? Nord Stream 1 is shut down still. It's still not open. So you will see gas prices absolutely shooting up next few months. And guess what again? China is out of the lockdown. The last city which was in lockdown was Chengdu, and now that's been open now. And you will see China starting to increase their factory output and manufacturing output, and they will escalate that output over the next few months. And you will see, because of that, there's going to be higher demand for gas and oil, and it's just going to be a nightmare for Europe, because they're going to be fighting for oil and gas as well, and they're going to be competing with these resources with China. And China has been in lockdown over the last few months, and Europe has been very lucky because of that, and they've been managing to get gases and oil from other places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia. But now with China going to full steam ahead, they're going to start ordering more of that, not only from Russia but from the rest of the world. And this is going to drive the prices up of oil and gas, and Britain is going to be really, really suffering as well. So what is Britain doing to counteract that? So one thing they are doing, they are lifting the ban on fracking. So let me tell you something about fracking. Fracking is probably the most destructive, most dirtiest way of extracting oil. And I just can't believe Britain is doing this. They must be really, really desperate if they're going to lift this ban on fracking. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is probably 7 or 8 negative impacts of fracking and what it could cause. So without further ado, let me start on that. So those of you who don't know what fracking is, this is a picture of fracking. What you have here is groundwater. So every country has groundwater which seeps. If there's rain, for example, it seeps through for millions of years, and it gets stuck below the Earth's soil. And what fracking does, it goes well beyond this water, groundwater, and it goes way below that. And what they do is they release chemicals, and you can see here the goal of fracking is to release trapped oil and gas that is buried beneath most water tables. To do this, high pressure fracking mixtures are applied throughout the tunnels below the water table. However, as the oil and gas is transported up the pipe, there is a potential for leaks to occur. In addition, the most experts are worried about the fracking liquids that are potentially seeping into the water tables as well. So these fracking liquids, what they do is they contaminate the groundwater, and a lot of water is extracted through groundwater. Obviously, a lot of it is basically coming out through mountains, and that gets kind of distilled, and then it gets turned into water. But a lot of it also comes from groundwater, and most countries around the world, they get their water from groundwater, especially in areas where there's not much water or rivers, especially South Asian countries mainly. So you can see there's a big danger of groundwater contamination if this happens. And in the United States, they have been fracking for years, and there's evidence that a lot of groundwater in the United States have been already contaminated, and a lot of these fracking stations had been shut down. But now it looks like Biden is going to reopen them again, and Britain is following suit. And this is going to be disastrous for Great Britain. I mean, not Great Britain anymore, for Britain. And absolutely disastrous, because we have a lot of groundwater, because in England it rains a lot. And one of the things, because we're in such a country which rains a lot of rain gets trapped in groundwater. So this is how we extract a lot of the water, from groundwater as well. We also get it from the Scottish mountains as well. There's rivers and stuff coming out. And we also have a few rivers like the Thames and other rivers in UK as well, where we get the water. But most of it also comes from groundwater. As you know, water is very, very scarce around the world. And there is a huge population in UK. And, there's more people in UK than, there is an absolute population explosion in UK. I mean, the NHS can't even cope with the amount of people we have. The schools can't cope. There's just too many people. And when you have too many people, everyone's fighting for resources. And one of the resources is water. And unfortunately, it's a very precious commodity. As you know, there's been a lot of drought this year. And even England has been suffering drought as well. So water is very, very precious, and this is why groundwater contamination is probably the number one reason why we shouldn't do fracking. So number 2, greenhouse effects. As for the environment, greenhouse emissions is another one of those unfortunate consequences of fracking activity. While carbon dioxide is often the most cited culprit, methane is actually far more harmful greenhouse gas emission type. So what they're saying is, not only releases CO2, it also releases methane as well. And methane is much more, you can see methane traps estimated 25 more heat in the atmosphere than equivalent in CO2. So it's much more dangerous than CO2. So obviously fracking is not very good for the environment. So all of these promises that Britain made in COP26, you had the guy crying in front of the audience saying, oh, this is all China's fault, this is all India's fault. Well, guess what? This guy, is crying crocodile tears, because they're going away from all of these COP26 promises they made. They're opening up coal power plants everywhere in UK. They obviously released all of these fracking bans as well. Absolutely ridiculous. So you got habitat displacement. Just like any other human activity, the potential for habitat displacement is one of the biggest environmental issues associated with fracking. In many cases, trapped oil and gas deposited are located in some of the most environmentally sensitive areas on Earth. So I don't know if you know much about UK, but we're not very big. We're just a small island. We don't really have that much space. We have a lot of greenery which is protected by the government. You're not allowed to build there. So now it seems like we're going to be destroying a lot of our natural environments and a lot of natural habitats, and it's quite disgusting, actually. Absolutely disgusting. I love watching greeneries. I love nature and stuff, and to see it destroyed just to make profits for these big oil-rich companies. It sickens me. This is beyond a joke. Soil contamination, as you know, soil contamination is another major risk associated with fracking, and this is very important because England also has a lot of greenery, it's got a lot of rain, so in terms of agriculture we are pretty much self-sufficient, but however there is a food shortage at the moment, and there's not enough fertilizer at the moment, and it looks like with all of this soil contamination that's going to go on, there's going to be less and less land available for farming, and this is really, really bad. And with all of these droughts coming our way next few years, things are just going to get from bad to worse. Toxic spills. While many individuals think that fracking is safer than traditional offshore drilling operations, it's not necessarily the case. Fracking uses a whole range of industrial solvents and other chemicals that can particularly be harmful to the environment. So all of these chemicals they pump into the ground, this is going to obviously contaminate the water, contaminate the soil, and some of it can spill out, into normal rivers. Like for example, a few months ago, a lot of factories around UK were spilling out sewage and toxic stuff all over the beaches in UK, and it was major news. I don't know if you remember, it was major news that all of the beaches in UK were contaminated. They were disgusting. They are filled with sewage and other chemicals, and this is what's going to happen. These companies are going to start spilling these toxic chemicals all over UK, all around the beaches, and it's just going to be disgusting, absolutely disgusting. Potential carcinogens. So it says here that a wide variety of VOC substances that's used in solvent sites may be detected in the nearby air supply, and it's entirely possible that these chemicals could lead to an increase in cancer rate in humans. So you can see how dangerous that is. This would increase cancer in humans. So anybody living near these fracking sites, they're going to be at risk, and obviously they're not taking any of this in consideration because they don't really care about the people living in UK. They don't care about the middle class, the poor. And you see the cost of living crisis. Nobody's going out in the streets. Nobody's actually, protesting like the rest of the Europeans are. British people they got their head stuck in the sand. And the government has been taking advantage of British people for years. I could see it. They've been taking advantage for years. And the British people are just used to it. They're just used to being beaten up by a stick over and over again. And now they've almost like given up in submission. They're like, oh, do what you want. We don't care anymore. Seriously, where are the protesters for this? I just can't believe they're getting away with such stuff. Respiratory issues. Obviously, this will start causing symptoms including shortness of breath and wheezing. So this is because of the air that this is going to be producing, all the pollution is going to be producing. And finally, there's going to be sleep deprivation and noise disturbances because these fracking equipment and machines are very, very noisy. So you can see all of these issues that fracking causes, and there are some major issues there. And England is a source of beauty. England's got a lot of green fields and stuff, and it's a shame to see the country I live in currently absolutely destroyed by these people who are just after a quick profit. If they wanted to help the British people, they could easily target these oil companies and gas companies who are making 170 billion off the current situation. And if they took that 170 billion off their hands and say, look, we're going to use that money and we're going to give it to the people and lower their gas prices and electricity prices, that would solve all the problems. Everybody's happy. These profits that these gas and electricity companies just had, the 170 billion, they don't need it. They didn't expect it. If there wasn't such a if there wasn't a war going on in Ukraine, and if there wasn't so many other issues happening around the world, they would have been happy with, just a little bit of profit compared to what they did before, like a couple of years ago. But now they're just raking in the money, or they could just nationalize these gas and electricity companies and just give it to the people. Imagine what 170 billion would do. They would not have to borrow it. They're just putting the country into more shit because of what they're doing. Absolutely ridiculous. So that's all I have time for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. And thanks for all the support you've given me so far. Like I said, I only need 15 more to carry on with these videos. I do not want to leave YouTube. I love making YouTube videos for you guys. I've got a lot of knowledge and truth to share with you guys. So it's really, really important. Obviously, it's going to a good cause. And yeah, so just need 15 of you, and I'm sure you can do it. You got people like Richard Medhurst, got 900. You got different frames of the world. You got they got 400-500. They so many people out there. Got thousands and thousands of Patreons. I'm just asking for 15 more. So I'm sure between you guys you can do it. So let's carry on spreading the truth. This is a world full of lies. This is a world full of propaganda, misinformation. So what we're doing is very, very important. It might not be for you, but for humanity it is, because without people like us, without channels like us, nobody would ever know the truth, and the world would just be full of lies. Anyway, thanks for your support, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.